last lesson we learned about the if function, and on this one we're learning about the COUNTIF function. Now obviously this has got the keyword if in there, and obviously it's going to count something if a condition is met. So let's have a look at that. What I've got is a list of numbers here, just a random list of numbers, and I've got a random selection of letters here. So what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to go equals, because we know we've got to tell it to do a calculation, count if open brackets, then it says range, so I'm simply going to select the range I'm interested in, comma, criteria, and I'm just going to see if it's got the value 5. So there are 3 5s in that list. That's all I needed to know. That's superb. If that works with numbers, does it work with letters? Well, let's just find out. Equals count if open brackets, select the range, and let's say we look for the letter A. Oops, sorry, I had caps lock on. There you go. There are 8 letters A's in there. What if I did do lowercase a? There are 8. This is case insensitive. So COUNTIF doesn't care if I'm looking for uppercase or lowercase a. There is a way of resolving that if I wanted to only look for one, but at the moment we will stick with what we've got there. And that's basically the COUNTIF. All it does is use the same if statement and to just simply count the result. If they're not there, it will just simply return 0. So there's no else part to this. There's no third part to this. There's only 2. Count if in your list you have what I'm looking for. It's that simple. So that's a nice little short lesson. The next one, we're going to be looking at the count A function. Looked at the if function, now we're looking at the count A. So again, it's got the count part, but now it's just got A. So what does that relate to? Well, let's have a look at it. Equals count A. As soon as I do that, it tells me counts the number of cells in a range that are not empty. So it's very, very simple. All it does is simply take those and gives us the number of cells that have something in it. Now, this is where we check out something I was saying just a moment ago. Let's put a space in there. We won't see a space, but look, there are now 10 items in that list, and yet you can only count 9 because you can't see that there is an item in there. A space is content. There is something in there. I have to delete it for that to return. Now obviously equals count A works just the same with numbers. It doesn't matter how long the list is. There's something else we could do. I keep doing the full range there, but what if I did equals count A open brackets and then just clicked on the C column? Now I've got all 1 million odd cells selected, but all I've got to do now is close the brackets. Notice how you can refer to the whole column, C:C, and that says select the whole column. Still says 9. In all that 1 million, there's only 9 cells in there. Equally, I can do the same thing here, but I could decide I wanted to do a range of cells. So this time, I'm not going to bother about selecting them. I'm just going to put C:F using my keyboard, and that will now tell us there's 21 of them. So there are now 21 objects between those 2 objects. Why 21? There's only 9 here, and there's 11 here, and I know that 9 plus 11 is 20, but of course it's counting that one as well. So that's where the 21 comes from. Again, nice little short lesson just to get our heads around the count A function and to encounter another function just to see what's available to us. Okay, so I'm going to see you in the next lesson when we're going to be looking at the nested ifs. I made this topic sound really dramatic last time. The nested ifs. It's actually nested ifs. And it doesn't matter if I made it dramatic or not. It just stands out, doesn't it? Oh, the nested ifs. So what's a nested if? Well, what I've done here, obviously created the sheet 50 by 50, and I've put some boxes into here. And what I'm going to do is just put some values in here, and we will continue to do that as we go through. And again, I'm just going to center them and make them 16, just so they stand out. And I'm going to use this one for my formula, my function as such. Still a formula, but it uses the function in the formula. Equals. If. We've already seen how an if statement works. If this cell is greater than 4, then put y, else put n. It's not, so I got that. But if I make it 5, we get y. We got used to that. That's easy enough. But what if I wanted to say, okay, but if it's not greater than 4, then I want to know something else about it. So I can now change this. And this is not just true of if statements. Many functions, you can use functions inside functions, and that's exactly what we're going to do. A nested if is nothing more than an if statement in an if statement, and these can become incredibly fun. So if D3 is greater than 4, then put yes. Otherwise, now, I'm not going to tell it what to do exactly. I'm not going to say now put n. I'm going to ask it the next question. Otherwise, if open brackets D3 is less than 2, then put yes. Otherwise, put no. Now, I've got to remember that the close bracket is only for this second if. I've still got a bracket here. Very common for us to close bracket. If I do that, Excel will warn me, and it's actually said, well, do you want me to put a bracket there? And we can simply say yes, but try to remember it yourself. So that's greater than 4, so I'm getting a yes, but that's not greater than 4, and it's not less than 2. But 1 is not greater than 4, but it is less than 2. So that's saying if the number you've got is greater than 4, then put y. But if the value is not greater than 4, so it goes into the else, then just see if it's less than 2. And we could alter that a slight different way. So let's get rid of that. Let's put the equals if. Let's say this cell is greater than 5. So as long as this number is greater than 5, good. Now we're going to say if open bracket. So we're going to do a yes thing. So if it's greater than 5, good. Then I want you to test it again. If the mod, so we're going to use another function inside of this one. If the mod of D3, 2, so divide the value in D3, divide it by 2, if it's equal to 0, and we now know that if I divide any number by 2 and the resultant leftover is 0, then the number I'm looking at must be an even number. It can't be an odd number. So if the number is greater than 5, then if that number is divisible by 2, then put yes. Otherwise, put no, because that last condition didn't meet. But equally, I need to remember to put no for D3 is greater than 5. So I'm going to do, just to see which one I've got, there you go, I've got no. I'm just going to put a no, an actual word no there. So that one is less than 5. So what's happening is D3 is greater than 5. Nope, this one's less than. So it's saying, right, go to this last part here, just put n. Let's put this one as 7. Okay, so this one is saying, okay, if D3 is greater than 5. Yes, it is greater than 5. Okay, so what? If the mod of D3, 2, so if I take D3, I divide it by 2, what do I get left over? If I get 0, put y in here, but it's not. 7 divided by 2 is 3, remainder 1. So there is a remainder of 1. Therefore, this is an odd number. So it puts the word no. But let's now put 10 in there and I get the Y. I can obviously use multiple cells. So if, open brackets, this cell is greater than 2, then if, open brackets, this cell is greater than, is less than 10, I'm just choosing values, then put yes. Otherwise, put no. And I'm going to use the word no so we can see which one's being triggered. Otherwise, put N for the last one, so that if it's not greater than 2, put N, but if it's greater than 2, but not less than 10, then put the word no. Otherwise, if it's greater than 2, basically, if it's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, put a Y in there. So we've got a 4. Let's put this as 2, and that fails. And if we put this one as 10, then we still get no, but we need to return that one to 4 to see that it turns that to no. So if we then put that as 4, and we need this one to be less than 10, so there you go. So we can alternate the values within these two, and as long as this one is greater than 2 and this one is less than 10, then we get the results. So that's how we can use the nested if, and we've got them there. Now obviously we could use multiple nested ifs, and I did all these boxes actually just to make you think I was going to go through lots and lots and lots of nested ifs. But hopefully by this point you already understand that I could do an if inside an if inside an if, and I can have multiple. There is a limit. It's somewhere over 20 ifs, but the rule really is if you've got more than 5 if statements, nested if statements, you probably want to rethink your spreadsheet. I generally wouldn't go above 3 or 4. It gets a bit clunky, really difficult to understand the logic of it, and you're more likely to make mistakes. So if you're going past there, then you've really stretched your understanding of ifs, and there will be a better way of doing it. So 2, maybe 3, and then start saying to yourself, well, is there a better way of doing this? There probably is. Okay, so we've looked at the if statements and the COUNTIFs and the COUNTAs and the nested ifs. We're now going to look at another function called the sum function. See you in the next lesson.